So I guess we can go ahead and get started. I'm the marketing director for IronTech Security. My name is Kinsey. This is the second deeper dive that I've done. So this may be your first time watching me today, and we're going to take a deeper dive into the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. So what is the NIST Cybersecurity Framework? NIST is the National Institute of Standards and Technology. The NIST Cybersecurity Framework, it was designed to help organizations manage their cybersecurity risk, and it's something that can be tailored to any organization. Now, they have divided the framework into 5 different functions: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. Now, more than ever, organizations have to adjust to this constantly, rapidly evolving cyber threat landscape by staying up to date on the latest threats and vulnerabilities that they're facing. So the framework not only helps, organizations understand their cybersecurity risks and threats and vulnerabilities, but how they can reduce those risks. It helps you respond to and recover from cybersecurity incidents, prompting you to analyze the causes and how you can make improvements and learn from those incidents. So why use the NIST Cybersecurity Framework? Well, depending on the industry you're in, I know like healthcare, you have to worry about HIPAA, accounting if you're working with bankers. Everybody has different compliance goals that they have to follow. And the NIST framework, it gives you a guideline that is customizable for any organization. It enables best practices to become standard practices for everyone, helps businesses of all sizes better understand, manage, and reduce their risk, and protect their networks and data. So another thing, when you're following this framework, it's something that you can use to communicate your cybersecurity requirements. You can communicate that with your clients, your suppliers, your customers to prove that you take cybersecurity seriously. And again, with it being customizable for any organization, it allows it to be cost effective for any budget, considering that you can go in and kind of pick and choose how you follow each subject. So let's go to the first function, which is identify. So what is it that you need to protect, and what is it that's at risk? So you need to start with identifying all of the above. So it could be patient files, banking info, computers, anything that could be of risk and is valuable to you needs to be on this list. So I recommend starting there. Make a list of everything, and figure out what needs to be protected. I want you to kind of think of it like this, like the security on your house. You have security on your house because you don't want intruders. You're preventing intruders. I know for a fact you have locks on your doors and your windows. It's the same thing in the cyber world, and it protects your assets, from intruders. The second function is protect, and any and all data needs to be protected. You may think, oh, it's just, some family pictures, not that important. But if those are gone, and those pictures are years and years old, that's not something that you just want to lose. So you need to use a security software to protect your data. And if you have attended any of our webinars, you have heard Tom talk about how antivirus is useless. And in the protect function, this is where the EDR is going to come into play, the endpoint detection and response. Now, antivirus only looks out for threats that it is told to look out for. So that's only a majority of the threats that you're facing and your employees are facing every single day. So using antivirus, you're left vulnerable to polymorphic malware, advanced threats, malicious documents, encrypted traffic, and much more. So again, the EDR, it protects against the widest array of threats by preventing known threats, but unknown threats as well. And what's cool about it is with the EDR, it allows your devices to self-defend and heal themselves by stopping that threat, quarantining it, remedying it, and even rolling it back to keep your endpoint at a clean state. Continuous cybersecurity training is also critical when protecting your organization. Anyone and everyone in your organization using computers, devices, anything on your network, they need to be enrolled in that continuous cybersecurity training. Your employees, they need to be aware of the current threats, current risks and threats that they're facing every day. COVID-19, for example, phishing emails. There have been so many COVID-19 phishing emails, and COVID-19 right now is top of mind for everybody. I mean, you see a headline article about it, you automatically want to know what's going on. So malicious actors have been sending out phishing emails pretending to be from the World Health Organization or the CDC saying, oh, hey, check out these new cases in your area. Well, your employee, they are just so interested in COVID-19, they don't even consider the fact that it might possibly be a phishing email. So that's one thing that the continuous cybersecurity training, it's going to keep them up to date. One and done trainings, they're not accurate enough. They don't keep your employees knowledgeable on today's threats. They really don't. Also, the training, it ensures that your employees, they're going to be aware of the consequences of, failing to protect the organization from outsiders or failing to look for phishing emails and look out for phishing emails. And you've got to remember that you're only as strong as your weakest link. Say, yeah, you've got 10 employees that are great about cybersecurity. It's top of mind for them. But then you have one employee that really doesn't give a crap, and he's the one that's going through and just clicking on emails. He's going to be the one that's going to click on that phishing email, and then your whole organization is then going to be hit with ransomware just because of that one weak link. So you're only as strong as your weakest link. It's also really important to have policies and procedures in place when it comes to cybersecurity. For example, you need to have a formal policy in place for safely disposing old devices. If you don't have that written down and in place, who is going to enforce that policy and that procedure? So those need to be written down on paper where people can access them. Backup and disaster recovery. If you are not backing up your data and you are hit with ransomware and you can't pay that ransom and you don't have backups, what are you going to do? If you cannot access any of your files or your accounting software, your payment software even, for weeks, what is your plan? The third function is detect. According to the Mandiant Cybersecurity Report, this year, 65% of cyber threats go undetected by today's organizations. 65. That number is so high because organizations are not implementing the detect function into their business. They're not. So you have to have a software in place to detect intrusions in real time. And again, the EDR, that's kind of where that comes into play. And EDR is continuously monitored 24/7 and will detect those threats coming into your system. Now, with the detect function, I kind of want you to think of the house analogy again. You have smoke detectors in your home, and you have carbon monoxide detectors in your home. Well, you have those to alert you. The EDR, it detects those alerts and it alerts you. It's the exact same thing. You need to use that analogy from having a house and having those alert systems in place. You need the same thing for your assets. So the fourth function, respond. No matter what, despite your best efforts, there's always going to be a chance of a data breach. It's human error. You can never be 100% secure. And I'm sure you've heard Tom say that before too. There's no way, unless you have unplugged everything and there's no power on your computer, there's no way to be 100% secure. Now, the detect function is what allows you to respond. And with the respond function, you need to make sure you have plans in place because it's not if, it's when. So you need to have a plan for keeping your business operations up and running to avoid downtime. You need a plan for investigating and containing the attack so it doesn't spread. And again, that's where the EDR is going to come into play. And you need to make sure you notify customers, employees, and any others whose data may be at risk. The fifth function, recover. How are you going to recover if the attack is successful? And how are you going to stay up and running? Again, you have to plan for the worst. When it comes to recovery planning, you need to plan for repair and restoration of equipment and all services that have been affected. Now, if you can't access your payment software, your accounting software, or you miss opportunities to connect with potential clients or customers, that can really hurt you and impact your company. The average downtime from a ransomware attack is 9.6 days, according to Cybersecurity Ventures, so about 7 days. So can you imagine not being able to access anything for 7 days? No business operation, 7 days? That would really put anyone behind. You need to make sure that you update your cybersecurity policies and your plans with any lessons learned. Any vulnerabilities that you've not identified in the past or they've not been documented, you need to make sure that when these events happen, you use them as an area for improvement, and so you can put a solution together. Again, communication is ongoing. You need to coordinate with your employees, your customers, internally and externally, and you need to keep them informed not only of the response activities, but your recovery activities as well. They need to be aware of that. That's their information, their data. And we did have a deeper dive last week on crisis communications. There is a recording of that on our YouTube channel. If you guys would like to go watch that, if you want a little bit more info on that. Okay, so I've talked about the training, I've talked about the EDR a little bit, I've talked about the backup and disaster recovery. All three of them are critical, and you must have all three of them in place. I mean, you have to. The training, your employees are your front line of defense. You know, you need to trust the fact that, they're not going to go and open some attachment in a suspicious email. You need to be able to trust them on that, because they are putting not only you and your organization at risk, but all of your other employees. Money is on the line, and you can train them to be your best assets. Don't even let it be a vulnerability in the first place, EDR, like I said, replaces antivirus, and it can detect those unknown threats that your store-bought antivirus can't even detect. The backup and disaster recovery, again, if you're hit with ransomware or your system, anything happens to your system, you need to have those backups in place, and you need to have a recovery process in place for that backup as well. Now, I have on the side here, we have identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover, the 5 functions of the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. Now, if you see the training in the EDR and the backup and disaster recovery, for each function, we have at least two layers on each function of the framework, 2. And it's affordable. So again, the training, EDR, backup, disaster recovery, and on the backups, we do monitor those and lay eyes on them every day, just like the EDR. It's something that is continuously monitored. Now, there are more security layers than just security training and EDR and backup and disaster recovery. There's stuff like remote access, VPNs, multi-factor authentication, password managers. But these three cover two parts of the NIST framework on each function, which is absolutely fantastic. Again, if something happens and say your client information ends up on the dark web, you can pull up the NIST Cybersecurity Framework and say, I'm following this, this, and this, and this, or you're not. So with that graph I just showed you, I thought I would show you guys the onion model because it's kind of a different way of looking at it along with the NIST framework. You can kind of see, again, the layers and the different layers of security. We kind of say, you know, the more onion layers you have, the more the hackers are going to cry, the harder it is for them to reach your assets in the middle that you identified on the first function of the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. And then, of course, you've got the EDR, the backup, and the training. Those three right there are covering all 5 functions of the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. So now what? You need to make a list of everything that you need to protect in your organization. And it's going to be a long list, but if you're needing a place to start when it comes to following the NIST Cybersecurity Framework, that's the way to go. Figure out what your assets are that need to be protected. What do you want to keep hidden from hackers? What do you not want hackers to get their hands on? You need to ensure that those assets are secured with software. And that's, again, where the EDR comes into play. And it does secure those assets. Ensure listed assets are monitored for threats. Again, the EDR. You need to have a plan for when the breach occurs and a plan for recovery and improvement in communication. Now, the NIST Cybersecurity Framework, remember, it's a guideline to follow. They don't give you strict instructions saying you need to do this, this, and this, and this. That's not how it works, how it goes. It's something for you to follow. And if you follow the NIST framework, your clients are going to have more trust. They're going to know for a fact that their data is not vulnerable on your end, which right there, that's important because a cyber attack can ruin a reputation in a matter of seconds when that reputation could have taken you 10, 15 years to build. So having this framework, you know, in your back pocket is something that is great to have. And you guys can always go to the NIST website. They have so much information. There's this, I mean, it goes so into depth. This is just a very general overview of it all. But I highly recommend, you know, you going and looking and creating your own your plan following the NIST framework. And I ended a little early today, but if we have any questions, throw them in the chat. And I'd love to answer them for you, or Brad can let me know if there's any questions in the chat. But yeah, if you haven't scheduled your security assessment yet, please do it. You're going to see where you're left vulnerable already. And, you know, with the NIST framework, it'll be also a good way to get you started. You know, you'll kind of see where you're already left vulnerable, what assets need to be protected, and we can kind of get you going.